There was a time, well, first let me start with saying this. There was a study done. Um, Forgot who it was, but they did a study. They followed wolves in in the wilderness, and they followed how they lived and how they hunt and how they survived. And one thing that I kind of was joyful about was that they found that the wolves, the alpha female, alpha male, one of the two, I can't quite remember, would always help the straggling wolves, because like when they would migrate with the herds and those kind of things, that's the alpha wolf would always check back on the weaker wolves. And I was like, wow. Then there's another study I saw on insects, down to the smallest level, how ants help each other in hunting, and everybody knows that thing when they show, but they never, when they do that assembly line or that chorus line or whatever, where others can climb over top of them and stuff like that. They do that in the military too. And something that requires sharing, something that requires working together to help one another. It's quite remarkable that we think because we walk on two legs that we got the answers to the universe. And we can't even follow our animal brothers into a more safe and helpful environment in our own lives as Homo sapiens. We can't do it. Like, sharing to a lot of people is aching into, like cutting their throat. Or, taking something precious from them. Like, they can't fathom that. Like, when you have Amazon's wife, his ex-wife, worth $60 billion with a B, $60 billion, and she gave $4 billion of that to the poor. And I thought that was admirable. I didn't think there was nothing wrong with that. But that ain't sharing. No, sharing is if you got 60 billion, you give 30 billion away, half. You see, when you share something, you get, you share a sandwich. You don't give somebody a third of your sandwich when you share a sandwich, right? You give them half. You see what I'm saying? If everybody that sat in the church gave half to the poor, we wouldn't need a church. We wouldn't need to sit in the church and sing hallelujah and ask for our prayers to be answered. Right? If everybody in the church gave half back into their neighborhood, we wouldn't have to ask the white man for nothing. Think about it. Think about if everybody, and here's the thing. If you don't have half to give, if everybody gave a third, isn't there something where you give a tenth or whatever? Christ, when he was talking about that, he wasn't talking about giving that tenth to the church. He was talking about giving that tenth to the poor, to the weakest of us. That's what it's all about. They get away from it now. But when I was younger, we used to sit around with the homies on the block and stuff like that. When I was 20 something, something stupid like that. We used to pass around 40s. You know what I mean? We didn't have enough money back then for all of us to have our own 40s. You guys wouldn't think about it now. Young people wouldn't think about, drinking after somebody. That'd be gross. Gross. I love the younger generation. But anyway, but yeah, we used to sit around and we would pour out some for the dead homies, right? We'd make sure they got their pop. And then we'd, pop it around. And here's something that was very distinct about that. Something that was very telling about sharing. Like, nobody drank so much that they didn't leave anything for someone else. And if you drank too much, somebody'd be like, yo, man, come up off of that. The whole group would be like, no, you're not sharing. You know what I'm saying? And like, if you had the last little bit, you didn't want the backwash. You know what I mean? We didn't go that far. The backwash would be the very little end of the 40. You know what I mean? You drink that. If you drank that, then, you drinking everybody's spit. But at the end of the day, for the most part, that 40, everybody pretty much got their fair share of it. James Allen, in one of his great works, and I forgot which one it is, talked about how when people go send out and they put food out for birds, and when there's a lot, during the springtime or whatever, when there's a lot of people out, giving food to the birds, you could see the fighting over each other. He said that, the birds will fight over all of that plenty, right? But in the wintertime, when it was scarcer, people were more, were more cognizant of the rarity, and that sharing would help us all to live better. But that we would all have a better chance of surviving if we share what little we had. See, in our country, and in countries that, richer countries, buying and having more makes people more vicious. And, it's mine. It's mine. You can't have it, And when things, like during the pandemic, it wasn't, you couldn't see that because it was still mine. Because our leader didn't, he didn't show what it meant to share in a time of crisis. Had a chance to, but didn't take advantage of that. You see, those things, that kind of, and that's indicative of, when you don't share in times of crisis. It's beholden upon the leaders. It's beholden upon the strong to make sure that we take care of it. When you could see a bomb going to a building, a plane going into a building, okay, and many people dying like that, yeah, we could all rally around each other. But for some reason, like I said before, they can't see that. They can't see it. They can't see, because our leader didn't say, we're in crisis. He acted later, but look, it took another of us to impeach him, because the government couldn't impeach him. It took us to impeach him to show another leader, hey, wear your mask. Hey man, shut up. He had to tell him to shut up during the debate, because he was telling us, look, we're in a crisis. You need somebody who can lead by example, who can show that we're in a tough spot and we all have to come together. We all have to work together. to be better. If we don't do these things, like I said before in my other videos, the human race is in trouble. And these past 4 years, we've been in trouble. Think about it. You were a little bit, if you were a strong person, you were a little more depressed. I know, I like to work, I like to work out. And I felt myself, like my stomach and everything, I was always tight. Always, you know what I mean, under duress. Because of everything that was, every time I look on the TV, this fool's saying something ridiculous. Instead of leading us through it, yea, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil.